Hurricane Matthew is weakening, but the U.S. death toll is growing. A look at where the storm is headed. We're tracking a murder investigation in Madison County, where a man was found dead on the side of the road.
One person is dead after their car crashes on I75 and bursts into flames.
This is WKYT News at 6.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us here on WKYT News on the CW Lexington. Hurricane Matthew, as you can see, is now moving into the coastline of North Carolina. Meteorologist Jim Caldwell is tracking the hurricane as well as your weather here in central Kentucky. Jim?
And I'll tell you what, it's been one to watch here along the East Coast past few days, as you can still see the very intense rainfall that is showing up into North Carolina now. Most of it now exiting as far as the heaviest rain out of South Carolina, just pushing along the coast there. Just tremendous amounts of rain. I'll show you how much some of the radar estimates are here in a moment. But Matthew is still considered a hurricane. It's a Category 1 storm with winds at 75 miles per hour, and it's moving east-northeast at around 13. So that northeasterly turn really suggesting that it's trying to get back off the coast again, but it is going to ride right along it there and continue to inundate those folks with more heavy rainfall. Here is what we're looking at from radar estimates over the past 48 hours. In some cases, better than a foot of rain has already fallen, and if it's not a foot, it's very close in many areas there between South Carolina and into North Carolina, which will leave absolute devastation there with some of the massive flooding they will experience. The problem is, Sean, they're likely going to pick up even more rain. I'll track that, and of course the very pleasant weather that we have here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I'll track all of it coming up in just a few minutes.
Jim, thank you. And of course, as we said, Hurricane Matthew is leaving this trail of destruction all across the southeast. You can see now moving into the North Carolina coastline. It's hammering that area. Other areas, though, are beginning to assess the damage. Matthew is blamed for at least 10 deaths now here in the United States. Now check out this video from South Carolina. You can see a large part of the Spring-Made Pier in Myrtle Beach is just gone. You can see those waves moving through the area, crashing up against that pier. Scott McLean is in Savannah, Georgia, with our top story at 6 o'clock.
Situation, and we are not out of the woods.
A downgraded Category 1 Hurricane Matthew made landfall over South Carolina's central coast Saturday morning between Charleston and Myrtle Beach.
The storm is today and starting to pass certain areas, but all areas still remain dangerous that we have to be cautious with.
And as Matthew starts to move toward North Carolina, officials are still warning people to stay vigilant.
I'm extremely concerned, since this hurricane has been downgraded, that people will let up their guard. And it's these types of hurricanes that settle over our state that have caused the most damage and loss of life and destruction.
In Savannah, Georgia, very strong winds uprooted trees and took down power lines, and heavy rain caused flooding that swamped roads. Rainfall totals are expected to be more than 12 inches in some areas. Meanwhile, in Florida,
Matthew really churned up our water. There's unbelievable amounts of beach erosion.
the cleanup is beginning after Matthew battered areas like Daytona Beach, St. Augustine, and Jacksonville. Dozens of homes and businesses have been damaged, and more than 800,000 people are still without power. Hurricane Matthew claimed several lives in Florida, but left hundreds dead in the Caribbean, most in Haiti.
Now, more than 1.5 million homes are without power from Florida all the way up there to North Carolina. More Kentuckians are heading to the southeast to help hurricane victims recover. Dozens of linemen from 12 Kentucky electric cooperatives were deployed to South Carolina today. Kentucky Utilities sent crews to Florida last week, and the Red Cross is sending more than 24 workers from the Bluegrass to some of the hardest hit areas. 3 members of the Lexington Fire Department are already in Lakeland, Florida, ready to help out as needed. For the latest updates on the storm, keep checking our website, WKYT.com, or you can download the free WKYT News app. New tonight, there is a murder investigation underway in Madison County after a man was found dead on the side of the road. Kentucky State Police say that body was found this morning off Lexington Road near the Clays Ferry Bridge. Now they're asking for the public's help. WKYT's Sabira Rayford is in Madison County with this Crime Tracker report.
Police say they received a call early this morning telling them that a body had been found on the side of this road. They say the call came in around 7:30 this morning. A person driving along Lexington Road saw a man laying in a ditch. They pulled over to check on the man and realized he was dead. The Madison County Coroner's Office has identified the man as 47-year-old Arnold Ford. Police say they are investigating Ford's death as a murder. They say they have seen suspicious activity in the area in the past, but not a murder.
We have seen suspicious activity in that area in the past. It's not uncommon. However, finding a deceased individual, that is outside the norms of what we typically see.
Kentucky State Police are asking for anyone with information to contact them. In Madison County, Sabir Rayford, WKYT.
Police say Ford is from Lexington. They have not released his cause of death. A teenager behind a Lexington robbery may have been spooked from pulling off a similar crime. That's according to Lexington police, who say the teen robbed the Dominos over on Tiverton Way just before 2:30 today. He stole cash from the register and from the clerk's wallet before police say he got into a black Nissan. Now, they think that's the same person who was seen with a gun behind the Dollar General on Southland Drive just minutes earlier. Police got a call about a man with a gun behind that store, but didn't find anyone. New tonight, investigators are working to identify a man who was killed in a fiery Lexington crash. This happened just after 8 o'clock this morning on I75 near the Ironworks Pike exit. Crews say when they got there, that man was underneath his car. WKYT's Mike Byer has details.
Investigators are trying to determine what caused the man to lose control. They say the car traveled several hundred feet off the roadway before crashing into the barrier and bursting into flames.
When we got here, we found a vehicle that was fully engulfed in flames.
Police say the man died at the scene and that his body was trapped under the car.
We actually sent crews into the wooded area to double check, not only visually but also using a thermal imaging camera to make sure that there was no one else involved in the incident.
The deadly crash happened shortly after 8 this morning in the southbound lanes of I-75 at the 119 mile marker just past the Ironworks Pike exit. Authorities tell us a witness saw the car leave the roadway and hit a concrete barrier, causing the car to burst into flames.
The burn damage was so severe that without going back and doing some closer analysis, honestly, I couldn't tell you what the make of the vehicle was.
Now, after speaking with investigators, they don't believe distracted driving caused this crash because of the path the car took before it wrecked. Instead, they believe it could either be medical related or that the person fell asleep behind the wheel. In Lexington, Mike Byer, WKYT.
Now, we're still waiting for the coroner to release that man's name. A defiant Donald Trump says he will never abandon his White House bid. A growing number of Republicans, though, are calling on him to do just that, following the release of his vulgar and sexist comments caught on camera in 2005. His own running mate, Mike Pence, said he was offended, and even his wife, Melania Trump, said the words he used were, quote, unacceptable and offensive, end quote. Trump will face off against Hillary Clinton in the second presidential debate tomorrow night. UK police want to find two men accused of racially harassing a woman on campus. The female student said she was on Hugulett Drive when two men drove by, threw water on her, and made a racist comment. UK police issued a campus safety alert and sent out this picture. It's of a silver car that they say was involved. Police say other students also reported having water thrown on them from the same car near the 90. New tonight, a dorm at Kentucky State University is closed because of mold. KSU says mold was found in several rooms in the Chandler Residence Hall. 13 students were moved to a hotel last week when that problem was first found. Now the university says all 90 students were moved out of the building on Friday. KSU says it plans to deep clean and treat the dorm and sanitize all the rooms as a precaution. It is a must-win game for the UK football team, and so far the Cats are off to a good start, taking Vanderbilt to task here at home. Lee K. Howard has a look at the first half highlights.
Hey there, Sean. Yeah, if the Wildcats want a shot at a bowl game, Vandy has seemingly one UK must win. Wildcats with revenge on their minds after what happened last season in Nashville. The UK offense marched down the field on its first possession. JoJo Kemp working out of the Wild Kemp formation caps off a 9-play, 75-yard opening drive with a score to make it 7-0 Kentucky. Late in the first, now 7-3. Kentucky punting on 4th and 15. Ryan White can't hang on to it. Eli Brown is there for the recovery for the Wildcats at the Vandy 47-yard line. Ensuing drive following a couple of big runs by Benny Snell. Quarterback Steven Johnson caps off a 13-play drive with a 3-yard scamper into the end zone. It was 14-3. Kentucky had a 17-3 lead at the half. Early in the third quarter, Vandy has scored on a scoop and score, and Kentucky has a slim 17-10 lead in the third quarter. We will, of course, have much more from that game and others in about 10 minutes in sports. Sean?
Lee K, thank you. It was lights out at Keeneland literally today. There was a power outage at the track this morning. Kentucky utilities say an underground electrical switch at Bluegrass Airport right across the street failed, which caused that outage. A backup generator kept the airport up and running. Keeneland was running on a 35-minute delay because of that outage. How people in Mount Sterling use donuts and a 5K to honor police. Coming up after the break.
Here we are on this Saturday, an October Saturday that feels absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, folks along the coast are not seeing much of a break right now from the Matthew action that continues to pound that area. Here's what we've got across Kentucky with our Kentucky cams. And one cam I want to point out, for whatever reason, the temperature just dropped out on me. But in Jenkins, they are in the low 60s, upper 50s in this area because of the cloud cover. And you can still see it's a little bit damp from some of the showers that they've had in that area earlier today. So that's right along the Kentucky and Virginia state line. Seriously, right along the line. You go around this hill and up the, or around the curve and up the hill, there's the line. So it's right there. 69 in Frankfurt, 69 in London, and we are looking at very good-looking skies around here. But the problem is still holding on to those clouds from Matthew right through this area. So it's not as thick as it was, but certainly a lot thicker than what we're seeing here in Lexington because it's completely blue out there. Very beautiful stuff. Hour by hour run. Just look at these temperatures. This is one of the newer runs coming in. Upper 30s. Low 40s tonight, so tomorrow morning might greet you with quite the chill in the air as we progress into the daytime hours, probably back in the mid-60s. So I think we're a little bit cooler area-wide because the cold part of this air mass hasn't really caught up yet, but it will by the time we get into the afternoon tomorrow. So that's what we have going on around here. Of course, Hurricane Matthew continues to churn and really pours the rain into the area there. From Raleigh to Wilmington, all the way into the Outer Banks, the rain just continues to fall there. And the winds are still whipping at 75 miles per hour. It is significantly weaker than it was at its peak, but you can see, though, it's just really just all about the rainfall at this point because I showed you this a little earlier. Look at some of these totals. These are radar estimates, but still 12.5, 9.6, 10.8, just an incredible amount of rain showing up from South Carolina and North Carolina. This is the rainfall forecast through the rest of the evening and into Sunday. Another 10 to 15 inches possible, kind of in the worst zone. And then 6 to 10, 48. Now, anywhere you go with that, you are not dealing with a pleasant situation, especially when you already have up to a foot of rain already received in those areas. So we continue tracking nice weather back here at home, and we can't wait for that to get off the coast. Sean, we desperately need it.
Absolutely, for sure. Thank you, Jim. People in Mount Sterling turned out early this morning to run for a sweet treat and to support their local law enforcement. The first ever Run for the Donuts 5K was held at Easy Walker Park in Mount Sterling. The Wives Behind the Blue and the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 56 put on that run. That is Police Officer Blake Tribby. There was a special award in honor of him. He died in a car crash a couple of years back. That was handed out to the overall first place finisher.
I gave out the Trooper Anson Blake Tribby Memorial Award to the runner with the best overall time. And that was just a really special honor that these ladies allowed me to do. And it just shows the community support that we have for our first responders here in Mount Sterling.
Proceeds from today's 5K will benefit the Montgomery County Shop with the Cop and the National Law Enforcement Memorial. Lee K is back now with sports, where the Wildcats are looking for a second win in the SEC.
They are, Sean. Kentucky series for more than 100 years, so why would we expect anything different today? Coming up next, we head back out to Commonwealth Stadium for those highlights. The Kentucky-Vandy football rivalry dates back to 1896, and since then it's been as evenly matched as you can find in college football. Each team with 42 wins in the series. The Wildcats looking to take back the series lead following last season's loss in Nashville. Wildcats march down the field on their first possession. JoJo Kemp, working out of the Wild Kemp formation, caps off a 9-play, 75-yard opening drive with a score 7-0 Kentucky. Late in the first, now 7-3, Kentucky punting on 4th and 15. Ryan White can't hang on to it. Eli Brown there to recover for the Wildcats at the Vandy 47-yard line. Ensuing drive, following a couple of big runs by Benny Snell, quarterback Steven Johnson caps off a 13-play drive with a 3-yard scamper into the end zone, 14-3. Next, Vandy possession. Commodores just outside of field goal range on 3rd and 12. Kyle Shermer sacked for a loss of 6 by Josh Allen. That would force a punt. Final minute of the half. Austin McGinnis adds a 46-yard field goal, his longest of the season, to make it 17-3. Cats, though, on their first possession of the third quarter from their own 14-yard line, Boom Williams hit and fumbles the ball, and it's a scoop and score for Vandy's Taurine Ferguson. Makes it a one-possession game, and that is where we stand in the third quarter. Currently, Kentucky has a slim 17-10 lead. Now, following a bye week, the Wildcats will host Mississippi State, and the Bulldogs, well, they look terrible today, hosting Auburn. The Tigers scored early in Opton's. Sean White rolls left, finds Ryan Davis for the touchdown, 7-0 Auburn. Just before half, State has the ball. Nick Fitzgerald gets sacked, and he would lose the ball. It's a big boy touchdown. Montravius Adams picks it up and returns it 13 yards for the score. Auburn would be up 35-0 at half, and Auburn wins big, 38-14. Georgetown College hosting Bluefield today. Before the season began, Georgetown dealt with the loss of sophomore defensive lineman Colson Macklett, who died in a non-football incident on campus. And Macklett would have worn number 96 this season. And today, one of his teammates, Max Nussbaum, choosing to honor his former teammate by wearing his number 96. First quarter, Bluefield with the ball. Quarterback Kason Witt takes it himself, only to fumble the ball. And guess who picks it up? Nussbaum. He's going 40 yards down the sideline for the touchdown, wearing his teammate's number 96. How special is that? Later on in the first, and Georgetown's defense flexes their muscle and gets the big third down sack there. Georgetown wins big 28-7. Our look at the 2016-2017 UK basketball Wildcats continue with possibly the most underrated of the fabulous freshmen. Brian Milam has more with Sasha Killia-Jones.
Sasha Killia-Jones is 6'11" and brings with him a versatility which could eventually or immediately remind some of Willie Cauley-Stein, only with more of an offensive presence.
Being able to bang inside and everything, and being able to play in multitude positions and defend multitude positions. Defend guards coming off ball screens and bigs rolling to the cup and everything. I think I've been able to do that, and that's my biggest strength.
De'Aaron Fox was a quarterback in high school, and so was Killia-Jones. And then he steadily began to grow.
I was probably like 6'1"-ish, like playing quarterback and everything, and I never even had I grew like 8 inches in the summer or anything like that. I just kept going. I grew a lot, and I kept growing a lot, like every single year.
Rated number 30 in this year's UK signing class, Killia-Jones was the lowest rated player, but that doesn't bother him at all. Sasha says he's never played on a team with this much talent.
I think that's going to be great for us, and it's going to be a nightmare for other teams because, it's different if it's one or two guys, doing all the scoring. It's like, all right, we got to stop, player number 1 and player number 2. But it's like we're going to have 5 guys on the court that can, that you have to worry about, and somebody's going to have a mismatch, and we'll go to that.
As Wildcat fans know, this is the 6th season in 8 years John Calipari has brought to Lexington the nation's top-rated recruiting class. Killia-Jones says it's an honor to be in Lexington and play for John Calipari.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy recruiting class. This is I think we have a chance to be really special, and I think especially with the way we play together, and our togetherness on and off the court, it's been really good for us. Coach Cal, obviously, it says a lot about him because he's the best. We all wanted to play for Coach Cal. He's the reason we came here.
Covering the Cats, I'm Brian Milam, WKYT.
That's a look at sports. We're back with more after this.
Thanks for joining us here on WKYT News at 6 on the CW Lexington. Remember, our next newscast is at 11. We will see you then.